Hi, thank you for coming to our webinar with COR Tax and Bookkeeping. I'm Casey Berry.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Brandy. I'm the CEO and founder of COR Tax and Bookkeeping. Um, Putting my assistant Casey on the spot to do the intro this morning. You did great though, Casey. That was a good first run at it. Um, we've also got Miss Rachel Mauricio here with us today. She's our customer success manager here at COR, and then Samantha
Morning.
Rodriguez, our jack of all trades and hero for always keeping us in line and making sure this webinar happens here today as well. So I think today, Sam, we're going to continue the conversation about AI, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, let's go
Yeah.
ahead and jump into it. Let's go ahead and get started because I feel like there's a lot to cover. I feel like every week that we do this, there's more ground gained in the technology world and more stuff to talk about, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I mean, it's definitely been fast and furious. I think last week really we learned a lot about um hardware. We talked a lot about hardware requirements and what we need to prepare for on that end, just to even have that technology in the firm. And this week, I think we're going to talk a little bit more about workforce. We're going to talk more about like implementation of these things and what it looks like to bring your firm forward in the future and even your business, further forward in the future and using these tools, these AI tools. Um,
Hmm.
so let's go ahead and go to the first slide, Sam. Okay. So what comes to mind when you hear AI? Casey, what comes to your mind when you hear AI? What are your first thoughts?
Robots.
Yeah.
Like robots, but I think that's more of because that's like the image that you see, like right now, that's the image you see when you think of it, but that's really not what it is.
Yeah. So what have
Mm.
you come to learn that it is?
It's more of like an assistant, like a technology that's in, like, how do I say this? Like a little gadget that's in your computer. It's not really a robot.
Yep. I remember when we first started talking about implementing this, like when we very first, like this was probably like a few months ago where we really started talking about bringing this into the firm. What was your initial response when we started talking about it? Because we were like really focused on like letting AI come in and do a lot of the administrative stuff, right? Like we were having a lot of conversation around that since like the beginning of the year. We talked about that,
Mhm.
right? So what was your initial like feeling when we first started talking about that? Like before you really
Um,
knew anything, before you had worked with it or seen it, we were just talking about what it could do. What was the initial thing that you experienced?
Insurance about it just because you need that people person. You worry that it may make errors and it
Mhm.
doesn't give that person like it doesn't give the person people the like person I can't say the word right. Like personability, like
Personality.
the
Yeah.
personality.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. The human touch, right? The human
Yes.
connection. Do
But
you,
it's really more.
when we first talked about this, because a big part of your job, right, as a tax admin for the company, also working as one of my assistants as well, helping me with like the things that I have to do on a day-to-day basis in sales, right? You really focus on sales too with me. Um, was there a little bit of apprehension and fear around it? Do you feel like when you first heard about it, like when we first started talking about some of the capabilities, do you feel like that,
Mm,
like was that a reaction that you experienced?
not not fear, just unsureness of what it's capable of and how
Like
it
what
can help us.
yeah.
Just the unknown, as I don't know much about it, but just to hear like, hey, this is gonna come in and do all of this. It's like, hold on, wait, how is that possible?
Yeah. Well, and I think that, one of the common reactions from a lot of people is fear, right? Like a lot of people get scared about the unknown. Like, right? People have different reactions to things they don't understand. And I think until you actually see it, like it can sound kind of scary, right? Like I know for me, when I initially like I was a little freaked out by it. I was like, whoa, I was like, well, if AI is gonna take over all of the bookkeeping and all the technical work, what are my people going to do all day? Because that's pretty much what they do all day. Like when you take a step back right now and you look at accounting firms as a whole, right? Even law firms, right? This isn't just for accounting, it's for law firms, it's for marketing firms, it's for graphic designers, it's for architects, it's for estimators, like all of these different industries. AI is coming up to a level where it's able to take care of and do a lot of these technical things that we spend a lot of our hours doing as technical people, right? And so there's always, I feel like, an initial reaction of fear of, oh, well, this is going to take over the thing I do all day. But I feel like that's where we move our people training and our people skills to the future, right? And we'll talk more about that as we get through this. Um, I can say that as we progressed through this, I feel like as a firm in its entirety, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there's some excitement in the air.
Mhm.
I feel like it's, now that we're actually seeing it. We sat in a meeting last week, Miss Mauricio and Casey, and I think Sam, you were even in that meeting as well,
Mhm.
where we were able to compile financials for a client for an entire year in like 10 minutes,
Yeah.
Mhm.
using the AI tools. And that's something that, you know, in the past, it would have taken minimum 5 hours to get something like that done, but now we can do it. We did it in 10 minutes.
Mhm.
It was even shocking to me when we were able to get it done. And we'll
Mhm.
talk more about like the things that we've seen and I'll have some upcoming like clips of work that we're going to do that I'll be showing you guys, not this time, but maybe the next couple of sessions. I'll record those and show them to you. Um, I think another thing that a lot of people don't realize that the AI is already available. It's not something that, oh, it's a year away, it's 2 years away. No, it's actually here right now. Like we're using it. Like Miss Mauricio, how do you use AI in your day-to-day work?
Um, if I have a thought and I wanna and you're not available or no, and I'm by myself thinking about something and I need an answer, I have a tax question, all I have to do is ask and it will give me a lot of information and then I go from there.
Yeah.
So that's how I use it.
Yeah. So you use it to research, like to research technical
To
questions
assist me. Yes. Mhm.
that you would normally have to like wait for me or
Yes.
CPA or somebody to
Hmm.
answer those questions, right? You're able to do that. Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
Casey, what
Lots of
about you?
rules.
I use it for the same thing, like research wise. With us, thankfully, within our company, we have a software within the AI that is just related to tax, and it gives us very good information because we do know with some AIs, when you look up information, it's not always correct.
That's right. That's right. And tell
So,
me, so let's talk a little bit about your experience with that. Like what did you, because I mean we've gone through a few evolutions of AI tools in the firm, right? Like we used ChatGPT for a while and now we're using Spark by
Hmm.
WriteWorks, right?
yes.
Is what we're using. And we made that change from ChatGPT to Spark specifically because Spark is created for accountants.
Mhm.
Like
Yes,
the sites that it uses to reference for information, it's not going out to the whole web. It's going
ma'am.
specifically to the IRS. It's going specifically to, state websites to research and look for information on questions that we have. Tell me a little bit about, Casey, like what your experience has been between, working in like what it was like working in ChatGPT and what you feel like has really made the difference working in Spark. It's something that's specific for what you do.
I feel like ChatGPT was very wide range of information. Like I could ask for it to give me a tax form and it gives me a bunch of links within Google. But
Yeah.
when I go to Spark, I can ask it a question about a 1040, 1120S, and it gives me the direct form from the IRS site with instructions. And that the Spark will even give you directions on how to file it, where to call. It can pull up numbers to call. It's more thorough for our company, and it gives you the right information based off of the dates that you're looking for. ChatGPT seemed to give some outdated information also.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gives some incorrect information too. Like I noticed
Yes.
that as well. So
Mhm.
Yes.
Sam, how are you using AI today in your job? Like what are the things that you are using it for?
I think when I started using AI, I started using ChatGPT, and I use that for content creation, like copies or copywriting. And but then when we switched to Sparks,
Hmm.
then I already was able to, answer some questions for our bookkeepers.
Mm-hmm.
and
Mhm.
especially for payrolls, and then for tax forms as well, how to fill out this form, and then also sending out emails,
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of give me more, more professional way on how I can send my email out for our clients. So
Yeah.
it's very helpful. Super.
Yeah. No, I love the email writing functionality of
Mhm.
AI
Yeah.
because it really helps me to not like I think sometimes we get in such a hurry responding to email. Like we like you want to put more context in it, but you just don't have time to
Yeah.
like type all of that out. And if you're using like the Spark email writer assistant that it has in there, it does that for you. Like it adds additional content, it can add links, it can add forums, and it gives it all to you, and then you just put it directly into that email. So the next evolution of that for us, when we talk about email writing specifically, is to start utilizing agents to do a lot of that, right? Like in our firm, that's where we are moved to at this point, is where, we are going to be able to not just research and compose, a perfect response for a client, but we'll also be able to task that to an agent to be able to send it out. And so that's going to be really interesting. We should be, and just so that the audience knows like the evolution of that, like how quickly you can go from like implementation to learning how to prompt to understanding
Yeah.
what it will give you, to deploying an agent to put to set actually send the response out, we're probably like 2 weeks, 3 weeks implementation to get to that point, which I think that's a pretty big deal for especially for a company like what we do, because we get large volumes of emails every single day. So that's very exciting. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Sam. Okay, so the biggest myths about AI. So I have to agree that AI is not going to replace most people, and that people using AI will replace people who don't. I agree with that statement wholeheartedly, simply because it would be similar to saying, you know, somebody, doesn't want to learn to use a computer because they like to do everything manually, which I'm sure, back when computers were first being rolled out, like that was probably a thing, right? People are like, oh no, I'm not going to use a computer. I'm going to keep my green ledger book, right? And I'm going to handwrite everything. There was some people that I'm sure did that for a very long time.
Mhm.
Uh, when I first started in this industry, I had one of my very first boss was that way. He likes to have the green ledger books, and then I also had to do QuickBooks Desktop at the time, and so I was doing like double entry. But the ledger book was what made him comfortable. Like that was what he liked. He liked to be able to see that book in that ledger. So, but eventually that phased out. And we stopped doing that. And I think it's going to be similar to this. Some people are probably trying to hold on to older systems who don't have AI in them, but eventually, the AI is going to it's going to overtake it just because of the efficiency of it, and how thorough it is. So I think that that's a very true statement. But it won't replace people though. Like I think people still play a very important part in all services that are provided. I just think it's going to be done in a different way than what we've done it before. So we can go to the next slide, Sam. Okay. And AI is transforming every business function. The best way I've heard it put is that like all companies, especially technical companies, have typically done like lots of technical work. We talk about bookkeeping, we talk about tax preparation, we talk about like content creation and graphic design. I mentioned some of those different technical jobs earlier. Um, the AI technology is completely changing processes in all of those areas. So, Ms. Benicio, when you think about the customer service component of CORE, right, of what we do here, how do you see AI being transformative in that service that we provide? How do you see, like, just with what you've seen so far, forward thinking? What do you see as the biggest impact that AI could have in what you do every day in providing that, fanatical customer service to all of our clients? Like, what does that look like for you?
I think a lot of it has, I think what I can see is the positive uh, for our customers, because a lot of the things that we have to experience today is the human element.
Hmm.
where sometimes errors are made or something is missed.
Yeah.
And with AI, it really hones you in. It's very technical and it is supporting the information, making sure that the information is correct before we present it to the client. You know, there's a last thing you want to do is have to go back and retrack and have to take back what you said and then, recommunicate that. So this tool in itself, AI, is going to really improve that part of the customer experience because that's what our customers are looking for. They want, they want that. They want that relationship with any company, and they will also
Yeah.
want that the information they're getting is as accurate as possible.
Yeah.
So I think that this is what's going to really help us.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that, especially from your end as a customer success manager, I know that like we have bottlenecks, right, in the firm. And I think every firm
Mm-hmm.
runs into that, right? Runs into the bottleneck. And the bottleneck is typically like humans, right? It's people. It's I
Mm-hmm.
need this person to review this, I need Brandy to review this tax return before we send it out to the client. But Brandy is out sick or she's at the doctor or her kid
Yep.
is sick or right like something comes up and then Brandy can't be there to review it and approve it so that we can get it sent out to the customer, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
AI helps to unclog that bottleneck because it has that independent agent review tool, right? Like the AI that we're using, it has I really love it because it's got like different brains almost. It's got like the prep brain where it's checking to make sure we have all the documents, that we have everything that we need to prep the return. Then it has the second brain that actually fills out the return and completes all of the fields in it. And then the third piece is review, right? So it's like three separate modules that are
Mm-hmm.
looking across this one tax return. And moving right over to Casey in this, like Casey, when we talk about how AI can transform what we do today. I think you and I had a really great conversation this morning about, the beginnings of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of like what that's going to look like on from the tax side of things.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you see when you look at what you do today for tax returns, and especially as it comes to intake? I feel like intake is also a big bottleneck for firms, right? Like it's always like we're waiting on the client, we're waiting on the client, and the client's like, well, I don't know what you need, right? So how do you see AI being able to um, how do you see AI being able to assist in like removing that bottleneck of intake? Like what are the things that you think AI can do that maybe like have been a bottleneck even for us needing that human element? Like where do you see that playing a role to fix that bottleneck and make it more smooth and a streamlined process?
Being able to review past returns and asking the AI, hey, tell me what they put into these tax returns last year. What will I expect to need for this coming year? And what did we miss last year that we could potentially use this year? That's
Yeah,
one of the things that has been very beneficial. Um, because there are things that we don't realize we miss until it's too late and we can not write it off. You know what I mean?
right, right. No, you're
But
exactly right.
I think that would help be able to compile a full list and tell the client, hey, this is what you had last year. Will you have these same things this year? If not, cool, but it at least gives us a list and the client a list without having to, hey, we need more expenses or we need this, we're missing this. It's
Yeah,
more compiled. It helps us compile the information.
yeah. I agree. And when I think about that, right, when I think about the intake process and I think about what that looks like, it definitely I can definitely see how it can help to improve some of those bottlenecks with creating the actual like list, right? And then beyond that, if the client doesn't understand like what some of that stuff is, being able to provide them with a very clear response as to this is exactly what you need without having to be the one to type it all out, right? So I think that's a
Yes.
big part of it as well.
And
Better
creating templates too.
information, more clarity for the client, really, right? And then
Yes.
also more compliance on our side, like being able to, start the compliance piece, from step one,
Hmm.
intake, looking at the prior year, looking at anything that might have been missed, exactly what you were saying, things that may have not been done correctly on the tax return, like
Yes.
And
100%. Like I think
and
that's
and
important as well.
and Brandy, also AI, what it has possibility that are very healthy because let's just say we have a company that's construction. So
Hmm.
whenever the questions are developed by AI, they will they have the capability to uh, list the questions or the things that need to be included or could be included that pertain to construction, that type of
Absolutely.
business.
Yep, making
Where
things more industry
before,
specific. Yes, 100%.
yes,
As long as we're very thorough with our prompt, I feel like it's very thorough with its response.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
hmm
Prompting is the key. And that kind of
yes,
takes us right into this next topic of the changing workforce. You know, the skill sets, what even like now, what I look for in hires, like what I'm looking for in staff now is very different than maybe what it was, even 4 months ago, right? 4 months ago, I was looking for very technical people that knew the tax code inside and out and could type, as fast as, like the keyboard, I would call like the keyboard on fire, right? Because we're typing so fast, right? So like people that could do that, um, but now it's a completely different, it's a completely different person that I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody that's more relational, less analytical, more relational, more able to carry on conversations, more able to, um, take a data set and analyze it, not just put together the data set, right? Because that was the whole job before, it was putting together the data set, right? But now there's but there's always been a second piece to analyzing it, to review it, right? And that's really the piece that I'm looking for now, right? It's very much pivoting from technical services to business advisory. Like really that's what it's going to be, I feel like, for what we do. Being able to add value in those areas for clients, providing information and more in-depth and complex reporting than what we ever have before. And honestly, for me, I am excited about that because that is what I love the most about what we do, is being able to tell a story with the numbers. Like that is like what I absolutely like. That's why I started doing this to begin with, is because I love the ability to be able to do that. But compiling all of that data and the scrubbing it and making sure it's complete and making sure there's no errors and that it's perfect. That's been all, I mean, that's the biggest part of it. That really is the biggest, most complicated piece of what accounting has been. And it very much excites me to know that that is going to actually become a smaller part of what we do. And the part that I really love is going to become the bigger part of what we do. And I think it will also be a bigger part of what like up and coming accountants will enjoy about the job, because you really get to use those strategic skills that you learn in college, like those really in-depth planning and forward thinking, um, uh, you know, practices and theories that you learn, you're going to be able to actually put them into practice, and I think that that's going to be really exciting. It's going to be a nice change for us. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, Sam. Okay, and work is definitely being redesigned. We're in the process of doing it right here, in our firm. Um, things are being more automated as it's like I said, we did a whole year's financials for a client in 10 minutes. Like that's not something that we've ever been able to do in 10 minutes. Like I mean, yeah, it was incredible. And watching the AI do it was even more incredible, to watch the process of it, putting it all together and just like the different steps it went through. And also I think the work paper component of it, like the paper trail, like that's the thing I think a lot of people worry about when they talk about AI is, well, what about all the work papers and the backup for what we're doing to make sure that it's right? And the great thing is like the tools that we're using have that. So that's been very, very helpful. We can go to the next slide, Sam. Okay. And the most valuable roles are becoming more human. And this is kind of what we were talking about a few minutes ago, that the accountants, even, when I think about marketing, people, when I think about content creators, when I think about um, when I think about graphic designers, architects, you know, things that used to be only in our heads that we could imagine, right? Um, we are actually going to have the help of a supercomputer to be able to help us bring those ideas to life, to bring them to fruition. And I think that is the piece that a lot of people aren't seeing. just yet. Like how excited I just got about like telling the story with numbers, right? Like other companies are going to be able to provide such more like enhanced services now through having like the assistance of this supercomputer. And but the thing is, like with AI, you have to know how to tell it what you want. If you can't tell it what you want, it's not going to give you the result, right? And a lot of times what we're learning here is that those things, the results that we want the AI to produce, we have to tell it how to do that. Like we have to tell it what we want, right? And if we don't tell it what we want exactly right, then it's not going to produce it for us. We're going to get a product that isn't exactly what we want. And I can speak from my own experience in working with this that that part can be a little frustrating because you have to keep going back and correcting it and telling it. And a lot of times it's not a matter of correcting the AI, it's correcting myself to make sure I'm, putting it in there correctly, prompting it right. Um, but I think that's also where, like we're talking about here, that the more valuable roles are going to become more human because the AI can't dream. The AI it cannot really think outside of the parameters that it's been given, right? Outside of the data sources that are available to it, Um, when I think about this, I think about like, some of the really incredible like architecture that I've seen. When I was in Spain, I saw some really beautiful buildings that looked like they came from like, a dream. Like it was like the Cat in the Hat kind of stuff, very whimsical, very dreamy, very, you know, so outside of the box. AI would have a hard time creating something like that because it's not normal. It's not the standard. It's not what is very common, right? So it's a new thought. It's a new way of thinking, and I think that that's really what's going to, people that are able to move into that direction of like a higher level of thinking are going to be able to utilize the AI to its maximum abilities, but it's just a matter of learning how to do that. And I think, what we have listed here, advisors, consultants, leaders, problem solvers, relationship builders, all of those people are going to be very valuable in being able to prompt the AI to produce new, more creative and better results for the consumers, no matter what business industry that you're in. Because those categories that we have on this slide, they really do exist in every business type, if you think about it. Like every company has these exact same, you know, jobs within their companies. So, um, but yeah, so let's go to the next slide, Sam. Future-proofing your skills. I think that this is very important, especially when we talk about emotional intelligence. I feel like that has been a lost art when it comes to business. I think since COVID and since, we were distancing from each other and spending a lot of time right on Zoom and things like that, the relational part of a lot of business has kind of fell off, right? Like one of the things that I ask people when they interview with me is I ask them, are you comfortable talking to people? Are you comfortable answering the phone? Are you comfortable making phone calls? Because that's required, and I think that a lot of times, people aren't they're not very skilled in that communication area because they haven't had to do it as much. So I think that is going to be something that is it's going to be revived. Like I think that we're going to see that come back in a lot of business categories, that the communication and the emotional intelligence of working with people is gonna get better across the board. The service piece is gonna get better across a lot of industries, I think, with the implementation of this technology. Adaptability, obviously, being able to adapt to the technology because AI is not the technology is not done changing. We're just at the very beginning stages of that. It's not something that's going to slow down anytime soon. Like it's literally just getting started. So, um, the creativity of how we use the tools and the curiosity to continue to learn more. Like all of those things are going to be those are going to be necessities. Like they're going to be required from people going forward in all industries, I think. We can go to the next slide, Sam. Relationships become the competitive advantage. Information is becoming free and trust is becoming priceless. This is very foundational for us at CORE. I feel like we have always very much maintained strong relationships with clients and having that. I mean, that's why we have a customer success manager in our firm. It's not like customer success manager is not a normal role inside of an accounting and tax firm, but we implemented it here at COR because we wanted to make sure that there was a person that the clients needed help, whatever it is. I can't log into my account. I'm having trouble with my bank. I'm having trouble with my IRS account. I'm having problems logging into QuickBooks. I can't log into my QuickBooks. Whatever those issues were, we wanted to make sure that there was a point person that was highly trained and highly skilled at being able to have empathy for the client, to be able to listen to them and understand what it is that they need, and to be able to communicate that need across to the technical folks so that we could get that work done for them. And that is why Miss Rachel Mauricio is here. That is why she is on our team. She comes to, I mean, and Miss Mauricio, you can speak to this, the importance of relationships in business. Just because I feel like in your prior roles, like that was a huge piece of what you did. And so why don't you talk about that a little bit, kind of how, and I would love for you to maybe elaborate a little bit on, your experience with, um, moving through your career, how relationship building was very important to how you got to the places that you did when you were working in the corporate world. If you want to talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, one of the things that the companies that I work for were, of course, they're big corporations, and so the customer experience is number one. Um, because that's the the experience that customers have. If it's good, it will get mentioned, word of mouth. If it was bad, same thing, it's a word of mouth. So it's really on how we execute, in keeping promises. If we say we're going to do something and we communicate that to a client, we want to make sure that we can meet that and not, break the promise. So,
Mhm.
that's the major thing. The number one thing is always, keep promises and to be very transparent with the client. So
Mhm.
let them know what is going on, and that way they they themselves will eventually, what they do is they just start trust, because
Yeah.
trust is a big deal.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
and how they get treated is very important. Calling them back, keeping them informed, even an email, or just checking in. Those things are all important to the customers. But
So,
it's funny.
Alicia,
It's all the same, even in small corporations and big company corporations. It's all the same. It's all in how how you receive your customer. How important is that customer to you? It should be very important if you want your business to grow. And because that's how you will grow. If you're breaking your promises and you're not calling the customer back, well, then eventually you'll have churn and customers leaving you because they can't depend on you.
so Miss Mauricio, I know in your career you worked across like multiple size businesses, right? Like you worked with smaller companies, you worked with government agencies, you worked with huge corporations. How
Mhm.
important, how like across all those different sizes of businesses, how important was the relationship building with all of those different sizes of companies? Like, do you feel like it was more important with one or the other? Do you feel like it was important across all of them? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
It was important for all of them. And where you have the big corporations, right? They
Mhm.
have the technical support on their side. It's just a different way of communicating with them, but the return is the same. It's very important, that
Mhm.
relationship. Their experience. The small customers, they expect, they don't have a lot of support. So therefore, you as a company, if you're going to support that customer, if you have them, then you need to understand that you need to communicate a little bit more because they don't have that. And that's what makes it successful.
Yeah. Sam, with your experience in working with all of our clients, right? How do you feel like AI is going to help with strengthening relationships within our firm? Like based off of what you have seen so far, like do you feel like do you see like a specific area where AI could help strengthen the firm client relationship more so than what it is right now?
I think what I could say is that our our ability to respond as soon as possible to all of our clients, because whenever that our
Mhm.
client were asking us some questions or sending emails. So we might want to, before we are still waiting for our CPAs or for you to answer, but we know that our CPA and you were so really busy. So it took us some hours to respond back to the clients. But right now, since we have Sparks, even our admins can answer all of our clients' question right away. So it builds us more credibility for our clients and more trust. So yeah.
I love that. That's good. I'm glad to hear
That
that.
Mhm.
SLA
So,
24-hour response that you've given us, Brandy, is like it's critical.
Well,
And if we
and I remember that SLA 24-hour response. Sometimes like we were like running to get to that. Like it
yes.
was like we were
Mhm,
sprinting trying to get that
Mhm.
response
mhm,
out. But I do feel like now it has opened up more so that like you guys have a tool that you can go to get those technical responses, you
Yes.
know.
mhm,
And then we can
Yeah.
and it's from credible sources. Like that's the other piece of it
True.
too. You know, people that are using Claude and ChatGPT and these, public facing AI tools. I mean, I think that's great, but you have to remember like those things are looking at the entire internet, which is not, and it's not always credible sources that it's looking at. And that's why we utilize, industry specific softwares and platforms to provide these services. So I think that is something for people to keep in mind when we talk about information being free, right? Like you just have to remember that, it's kind of like the Instagram wealth advisors that you see sometimes, right? They
Mhm.
talk about these, deductions and these things that, oh, you can write this off and you can write this off and you can do this. Well, I guess you can do that, but does that really apply to every single person that's watching that Instagram short? Probably not.
Mhm.
It doesn't necessarily apply to everybody. It only applies in certain circumstances and situations. And I think that, just because you find it on the internet doesn't always mean that it's true,
It's
right?
true.
You still
Yeah.
want to check with your professionals, resources to make sure that the information you're getting is right. Um, but I do think that, the relationship building will get a lot stronger. Where SLA right now is 24 hours, we're probably gonna be able to knock it down to like 12, 6
Mm.
eventually,
Yeah.
like it's gonna be able to come down more and more and more. So I think that's very exciting for us and for our clients especially, because it's a better service for them. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Sam. So, and this is the winning formula. AI and human expertise is the competitive advantage. I will say that that I feel like the firms and the companies that resist this and don't start moving towards it are going to find themselves behind a curve that is going to be really difficult to catch up with. Because I can tell anyone watching this right now, whether you're an accounting professional, financial professional, if you're in a technical field where AI technology is coming in, your best bet is to embrace it and to start learning what you need to do to use it and start implementing it into your business or your work, whatever it is that you do. Because it really is going to be the thing that's going to make you more competitive in whatever industry or field that you're in. Um, it is a process as we are experiencing right now in this company and in our firm. Um, but it's a positive change though, because I feel like the more we embrace it and we pull it in, the better we're able to do our jobs and the faster we're able to take care of our clients. So I feel like that's just again giving us a competitive advantage right now with our clients. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Sam. Hiring is definitely changing. I want to talk about this a little bit because I want to discuss kind of the process that we utilize for training or for hiring. Um, one of the things that I started doing right at the beginning of the year, really, right when we were looking for seasonal staff to come in to help out with the tax season, when I was looking for people, I did use AI to help create the job descriptions, and the job ads. And I feel like it did a great job because it really brought us in. It not only did it bring in a lot of candidates, it did a great job of creating the hooks and the attention grabbing verbiage to bring in the right candidates to us so we could evaluate them. Um, we also ended up with great hires. Like we have a couple of young ladies that work with the company now that are fantastic. They have all of the skill sets that we were looking for then, and they even have skill sets of what we need now. One of the things that I always felt like was very important when I was hiring people was I wanted people who liked being around people. I didn't want accountants that just wanted to hide behind a computer screen and not be able to have a conversation or talk to someone because that's important. Like that's part of the relationship building that we've always had in place here at CORE. Um, and I feel like, now but there was always a technical piece of it too, where I had to make sure that they knew how to technically do things at a certain level or else they wouldn't work, right? They couldn't perform the job functions. And now looking at that process, really it has to be like, can this can this person communicate clearly? Can they present? Are they comfortable speaking in front of a group of people? Because that's really what it's going to become now. It's not going to be hiding behind a computer doing technical work. It is going to be being able to be in front of a customer and be able to communicate with them what's going on in their business, what are the things that they maybe need to consider or take a closer look at, and then also helping them to troubleshoot issues that they're having within their companies. And being able to do all of that like on the fly in communication, right? And it's a skill that I feel like all accountants and CPAs, they have this skill in the fundamentals. It just needs to be grown a little bit more because it's one of those things where it's like, you know, it's kind of like when you have a plant and you put it in a small pot, right? It's only going to grow so much, right? But the pot for CPAs and accounts, I feel like had to always be small because we had to stay in this technical work all the time. Well, now we're being freed from that, right? And we are able to actually grow more in our abilities to communicate and relate to people. And so I feel like, people that really embrace this are going to be able to grow those skills and be amazing consultants and advisors for their clients. And the financials and the numbers and all that piece is going to be the supplemental stuff that we take to be able to really execute and do a job that is a much higher value to people than maybe what we do right now. So the hiring is definitely changing. I think what we're looking for and people are changing. And I think the existing folks that we have working for us have the abilities to move into these other advisory areas. It's just a matter of pushing them in that direction, training them and growing them in that direction. Let's go ahead and go to the
I
next slide.
think,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I like this life because the future hiring is so important. The engage, this is all to me, for me, it's like my engagement with the client is going to be so much better because I'll be able to provide and really like look at where they are at because not every customer that comes through is not the same. They're all different. Some of
Mhm.
them have more understanding of what they need to be doing for their business, and some
Yep,
of them need some guidance. And so this is going to really help that part.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Sam. Okay. So what smart organizations are doing now? Well, I think smart companies are, like I had mentioned a few times in this presentation, like are implementing this and they're researching it. They're figuring out how is this going to apply to what I do and how can I use this to better serve my clients? What does the investment look like? What is the hardware requirement going to look like? Um, I think building the AI policy for your company now is critical so you can set those parameters for your staff because employees are using AI whether you believe they are or not. Like even if you are a firm where you're like, well, my accountants and bookkeepers know that they're not supposed to be using AI to do their work right now. Well, I can tell you that they are. Like it's on our phones, it's on our personal computers, it's everywhere. Like people are using it, whether you like it or not. Customers are using it to review the work you're sending them. Like if when you submit a tax return and financials to your clients now, like you're gonna get emails that are like this long with, a bunch of AI generated questions that they have. So I mean, people are using it, whether you want to embrace it or not. So it's better to just write a policy for that. So that way, at least if employees are going to be using it, they know what they can and cannot use. They have recommendations, kind of like our team. Like I put Spark in place, and when I put it in place, I communicated to my staff that this is what we use from now on. We're not using anything else. This is what we're using. As time goes by, the AI policy will continue to grow, right? It's going to be evolving. And I think this is where, like in the accounting world, you have to, one of the things I tell all businesses is that it's important for you to identify the things that you do well, and it's important for you to know the things that you don't do well, right? And I was talking with Burke, who's with what is the name of his company? Beach Advisories, I think, right, Sam? Same with his company.
Yeah.
Burke is our
Mhm.
hardware consultant. He's fantastic. And so if you need a hardware consultant for your business, I would love to refer him to you. You can email support@mycorebookkeeping.com, and I'd be happy to connect you with him because he's fantastic. Him and his team are great. They're making this change for us so much easier than what it would have been if I tried to do it on my own. But that takes me back to understanding what we are and aren't good at. When I first started with this whole thing, I remember I sat down and talked to Bert and I told him, I was like, my philosophy on onboarding a new employee, was let me just go buy him a computer from Best Buy, or Target. Like I'm just gonna go buy him a new computer from there. And here you go, here's your computer. But like that's not going to work anymore. Like you can't, not gonna be able to do it that way. Like you're going to have to make sure that the computer meets the specifications that are required for the technology that you want to run on it. And the AI definitely, it definitely requires a lot more of our computers than maybe what we've done in the past. And I feel like as it grows, it's going to require more and more. And so it's just important to talk with experts about that, along with, building that AI policy, and knowing what does that look like for your company? Because I think we mentioned this a few times already. All companies are different. What we do and don't do is different. The way we provide services and the way we log into customer accounts and the way that we access, sensitive data, it's different across all organizations. And so it's important, I feel like, for you to outline some of that stuff for your people so that way they know. Sam, let's go ahead and go to the next slide about the AI tools leading the way. Okay. So AI tools leading the way. A lot of these that we have listed on here, these are some of those public facing tools. But they are a great way to start learning how to use it. If you've never used it before and you have no idea what it does, like these tools are a great way to get yourself started. I don't recommend them for technical stuff. I definitely don't recommend them for sensitive client data. If you're an accountant, and you want to take advantage, like maybe research or learn some of the things that we've been talking about here, as far as like being able to put together client financials in 10 minutes and things like that, reach out to our office, support@mycorebookkeeping.com, and I would be happy to get on a 15-minute call with you and just kind of show you what I'm doing. I have nothing. This stuff is available to you right now. So there's like no proprietary secret of what I'm using, right? You could go out there and get it yourself if you're an accounting professional. And I'm happy to share that with any other firms or accounting professionals that feel like this information would be valuable to them. I know that when I went to the Right Now 26 conference in San Antonio I think it's like a little over a month ago now. Um, I went there because I wanted to hear what other people had used and experienced so that I could try to make an informed decision of what I wanted to do for my company. And I felt like because there was people there that were willing to share that information, it made it a lot easier for me to make this step forward in figuring out what I should and shouldn't be using. And so, and what would work for me and what doesn't. And so if you're in the accounting profession and, you want to chat about that, I would love to talk with you about it just so that, you have a place to start. Um, okay, Sam, let's go ahead and go to slide 15. So the future definitely does belong to learners, people who are willing to adapt to the technology and willing to embrace it into your companies. Kind of like what I said before, if you're not there yet, um, we will, you're going to be behind a curve that might be really difficult to catch up with. So I do recommend, like, if you haven't looked at it, start looking at it now because it's here. It's not, some people think it's like 5 years away. No, it's not 5 years away. It's like right here. It's already here. It's already available. Um, so let's go ahead and go to um, let's go to slide 16, Sam. Yeah. So what should we do next? Um, for businesses and business owners, if this is something that you want to move forward and you want to figure out how do I take the first steps to doing this, what are the options for me and my business type, start with some of those public facing GPTs and AI tools that we were looking at, Claude, Copilot, ChatGPT, and start doing some research and ask it, just, hey, what are the most powerful AI tools that I can use in my business, right? And write a short summary of what you do, maybe write a summary of what your bottlenecks are. These are the things that are difficult for me to get done and that I feel like take a lot longer than what it needs to be. Start there, start researching, start finding out what is available to you industry specific. And if you have questions or you want to like talk about it, we can always discuss it here. We can discuss it on this weekly webinar. You can send an email to our support team. You can call our office and schedule time. I'm happy to talk, brainstorm with anybody about this stuff because I feel like, that's really how we're gonna take all of our companies to the next level. And if you're an employee and you're watching this, you definitely want to learn. You need to start like looking at these tools to figure out how can these tools help me to better perform and do my job and do the things that I do every day in my work that feel like I take too long to do them, right? So like that's an important piece of it as well. Okay, Sam, let's go ahead and go to 17. So the key takeaway from all of this that I hope I was able to communicate to everybody, and that through hearing, Casey and Miss Mauricio and Sam's, personal experiences with using AI, I hope that you guys are able to see that the AI is not going to replace people. It is going to change how we work. It's going to change the way that we do things every day. It's my hope is that it changes, how I have to review my email every day. Because I come in the mornings and I have like, 50 emails already before I even get started. But the thing is, most of those emails don't really require me to look through the whole thing, right? Like some of them are not even really for me, they're for staff and I'm just copied on them, and to be able to have an AI agent that can go in and go through my email looking for certain things that I'm wanting to look for, it's going to make it a lot easier and fast. It's going to make it more efficient than anything else. But it's not going to change the fact that like if I get an email from, a client who wants to do an onboarding call, you know, the AI will be able to tell me, hey, you got this email from someone saying they want to schedule the onboarding call, but it's not going to change me sending it over to Casey so that she can give them a call and let them know that we got the email and that she's calling to set up their appointment with them. Like the AI just helps me get that to Casey faster. It helps me to make sure that Casey has it in a way that, in a much faster, more efficient way than maybe the way that we're doing it now. And I think it's going to be that way across a lot of things that we do. I'm just using email as an example. I think that, for a long time, this company has always functioned on, you can't just come in and get your financials and your bookkeeping done. We can't do that. Well, you know what? Maybe we can. I think we can do that now, like if you
And
have a year's worth of bookkeeping that we need to get done, we can do it that way now. You can come in and it'll take an hour and we can compile financials for you. Like that's something that we've never been able to do before, but now we will be able to do that. So it's exciting, but yeah, I think it's good stuff. I think we're almost out of time, so we don't really have a lot of time for the Q&A discussion. If you submitted questions, we'll send you a response via email or one of these ladies will call you. But I want to thank everyone for joining us today and for watching. And thank you, Casey and Miss Mauricio and Sam for participating and
Thank you
answering
for having
questions
me.
for everybody. And we will look forward to seeing you guys all again next week on Wednesday. Have a great rest of the week, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank